This is information. The proper use of it can bring a new dignity to mankind. Properly related, it can maintain a balance between man's needs and his resources.
Human history, if you look at it closely, is really a story about how we store things, memories, narratives, moments. We scratched them onto the walls of caves, wrote them into narratives, then later strung them across ribbons of magnetic tape. This urge to capture our own imagination has followed us from the Stone Age, extending to the digital revolution.
By the late 20th century, that urge changed into something both strange and beautiful: gray plastic cartridges. People described them as toys, but they weren't. These tiny miracles were gateways. Each one carried entire worlds, pressed into thin slices of silicon and copper, small enough to rest in your hand. However, those worlds have always hung by a thread. No matter how sturdy they felt, these digital landscapes submitted to the same rules, the same laws as any crumbling cathedral. And that is the second law of thermodynamics, the gradual unraveling of order into disorder. No matter how cleverly it's arranged, matter never stays put, not forever. And those silicon relics from the cartridge era, recently they've been showing their age. They're starting to come undone.
Open up an old cartridge and you'll find a heart pulsating from within. A heart that's begun to hemorrhage. Back in the 90s, saving your progress in a game depended on SRAM, static random access memory. It was blazing fast, efficient, but simply fragile like spun glass. It lives only so long as a gentle trickle of voltage keeps its small latches held open. But where does that voltage originate from? A simple lithium coin battery soldered onto the board. These little batteries were never meant to last forever. They're filled with volatile chemicals. As the years drag on, the pressure starts its own quiet apocalypse. Inside, chemical reactions build up, pressure mounts, and eventually the walls burst. What leaks out is potassium hydroxide, a caustic fluid that meets CO2 from the very breath that you're holding back, forming powdery white scars on the metallic surface. But the real damage goes unseen. That liquid creeps between pins, creating tiny electric bridges where none belong. Corrosion kicks in. The metal atoms get stripped away and deposited elsewhere, progressively eroding the intricate circuitry that preserves your memories. The physical map that once helped you relive your childhood is literally dissolving away. But the slow death of old hardware constitutes only half the nightmare. Even if you clean every trace of battery sludge, even if the board looks spotless and new, that information inside is fading away bit by bit. This is called bit rot. Modern memory chips, flash, EEPROM don't store data as little moving parts, but as groups of electrons captured by floating gates within the silicon substrate. Rooms inside of rooms, separated by silicon dioxide walls. The universe has tricks buried in its code. Quantum mechanics gives electrons an alternate passage known as tunneling. Traditional physics says if you don't have the energy, you can't get through the wall. But quantum physics is more elusive. At every second, some electrons disappear and then reappear across that barrier, especially given that that distance is measured in nanometers. With insulation only a few atoms thick, the leak never stops. Across years, decades, electrons escape gradually until the chip fails to operate correctly. One by one, bits flip. A perfect save file becomes a useless jumble. One elegant line of code that previously controlled Mario's jumps or saved your boss victory changes to static. Bit rot is the silent predator. You can't see it. You can't fight it. The physics itself guarantees that it'll win. The story dies, not by fire, but in silence.
Every such system contains noise. Noise is a term used in the communications field to designate any outside force which acts on the transmitted signal to vary it from the original.
Is that it? Are these worlds fated to perish? No. There's a new breed of engineers out there, digital alchemists, using the most advanced semiconductors to create something better. Non-volatile flash cartridges. Our tech, modern tech, has shifted. Long past is battery-powered SRAM and unstable flash components. Enter FRAM, ferroelectric random access memory. Here's how it operates. FRAM stores information by manipulating the arrangement of atoms in crystalline form, not by parking electrons, nor using battery power as a crutch to lean on. Inside an FRAM chip, your data isn't just simply a momentary charge. It's effectively frozen within the crystal structure itself. It remains unfaded. Rated for 10 billion saves and loads, it would take playing non-stop for years, genuinely years, to cause one to fail. For all practical purposes, it's as close to digital immortality as we've ever ventured. Modern flash cards are showpieces of this new era. They don't hide their wiring, they display it openly. Gold-plated pathways, looping like veins on a clear solder mask. Even the connectors are transformed with heavy gold plating, which resists corrosion, which the old cartridges fail to achieve. These go beyond simple nostalgic recreations. These are heirlooms built to spacecraft standards, designed to endure beyond our lifetimes.
How do you join the fading traces of yesterday with the digital world ahead? You require a bridge, a specialist tool, something like the Epilogue GB operator. It reads old cartridges as primary sources, identifying real Nintendo chips from inferior copies with almost flawless accuracy in a masterful way. And it doesn't just copy your files, it pulls your save data too. It creates a faithful digital twin, preserving the nostalgic game code along with your personal developing history. That level 100 Charizard you nurtured throughout 1998, your personal high scores from when you were young, they're all safe, extracted from deteriorating plastic and silicon, safely preserved within a modern vault. For many years, the emulation experience was filled with continuous compromises. However, recently, situations have evolved thanks to the inventive companies in Shenzhen. They've done this by repurposing leftover technology from the world of smartphones. High-speed ARM processors, vivid IPS and AMOLED panels, and transforming it into a new product, handheld devices created exclusively for emulating old games. And these machines are exceptional, allowing you to play your old favorites in a modern way. Think of them as miniature ARCs for your game library, carrying old classics across time. Immediately upon picking up something like the Odin 3, you have greater power in your hand than the supercomputers of old. Yet all that power is not simply about adding complexity. It lets the device become unobtrusive and places you directly in the game itself. That's the charm.
Data preservation is more than just simply pulling data off a chip. It's about reviving the tactile echoes, The feel and the look that made those cartridges more than just hardware, recreating those glowing labels like we used to see in the 90s.
You might be wondering, why do we do all this? And it's an act of defiance. Big corporations see games as disposable products. You start them up, you tap into nostalgia, and then you move on. And we've seen this time and time again. Servers shut down, stores close, and vast chunks of culture cease to exist overnight.
Every dead battery represents a forgotten record, every corroded board, a volume of history consumed by rust. Preserving these items goes beyond mere collecting. It's about constructing a cognitive habitat where digital ghosts and pixelated memories can survive during the collapse of the old world. Reality itself always comes undone. Batteries rupture, boards decay, magnets lose their strength. Even electrons, if allowed sufficient time, tunnel away into the vacuum. But inside the digital sphere, if we contribute, another law governs. A soul, in a manner of speaking, can be cloned infinitely. Recreations free from deterioration. Finding homes in countless safe harbors. The best hardware isn't the most powerful. It's the one that brings data furthest into the future. This is our role now, stewards of the fading, architects of the silicon afterlife. And maybe once you boot up a game and hear those nostalgic notes, a tiny wonder emerges. It's not just the ones and zeros we've rescued. We reclaim a fragment of our identity.
The ability of these machines to store information, manipulate, sort, and deliver it is fantastic.
The future doesn't honor those with the toughest machines. It belongs to those who remember. The arcs stand ready. The bridge glows in the distance.
The silicon afterlife has already begun.